Welcome, everyone, to QuickBooks Connect. I'm Ivirlei Brookes, actor and entrepreneur. And today I am joined by my two favorite lovely entrepreneurs, Katie Sturino, as well as Ellen Bennett. And today we're going to be talking about the ways in which we pivot our businesses and how we can grow together. So, ladies, I'm excited to have you. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit of info.
My name is Katie Sturino, and I'm the founder of Megababe. Megababe is a personal care line for women. We make things like bust dust for boob sweat and thigh rescue, which is for thigh chafe. We address issues that really are not addressed by big beauty, and we try to bring cute but effective solutions to the market.
And my name is Ellen Bennett. I'm the founder and CEO of Hedley Bennett, and my company is dedicated to aprons and kitchen gear. So our primary consumer for the longest time was the professional restaurant, the chefs, the cooks, everybody that worked in professional kitchens. And as the company has evolved throughout the years, we've gone from not only outfitting professional chefs all over the country, but home cooks too. So we want to inspire confidence and dignity in the kitchen, no matter if you're an amazing chef or if you're just a line cook or you're a starting cook that's trying to figure out their way in the world. We make really great gear that inspires people to make things happen in the kitchen.
I love it. Awesome. I'm excited to have you both here today. Man, it's such a crazy time, and so many different entrepreneurs are having to change and move into areas that they weren't thinking they were going to. And so it's a big deal for everyone. We're all having to relate to that. So I wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit about how you've had to pivot your own businesses right now and what that looks like and how it's been. And Ellen, you can start.
Yeah. So yes, this year imploded, and then it was like a dumpster fire inside of a crashing train, all of the above. But I also feel like it was a very important reset that in so many ways we all had in the world and everybody. And it brought some things down to a point of new reality. And I think as an entrepreneur, I really appreciated that. And, for a long time, I bootstrapped my company for many, many years. There was a lot of comparison on people that raised a lot of money and people that didn't raise a lot of money. And there was always a little bit of that looking out of what is everybody else doing. And then came March, and it was just like all bets are off. Whatever happened, or nobody cared. The playbook got picked up and chucked out the window. And I just felt like at that moment, we all just had to swim really hard and figure out what was the next thing for each of our businesses. For us, the pivot was into face masks. And the day I was shut down in LA, I decided that we were going to convert our 16,000 square foot factory in downtown LA into a face mask facility. This was long before anybody was making face masks, or it was the cool thing to do, or if you had a brand that had cloth involved, you were going to make a face mask. Nobody was talking about it.
Yeah.
And I had just watched my entire restaurant community go up in flames. All of our business had essentially stopped when it came to the restaurant industry, and 50% of our business is direct to consumer. So that was still going, but all of our restaurants had gone. And so we started making these face masks. We came up with a design. We got them up online within 24 hours. I developed them with a doctor. I called him on FaceTime and I was like, what do you love? What do you hate? What do you need? Tell me everything that a face mask requires.
Yeah.
Use the same prototype essentially of mindset for how I started my company in the first place, which is find an audience, find a need, find a thing that is missing, and then make it the best that it can be and bring function and purpose and make it look and feel really good. Don't just make it look good, but actually make it work. And it went completely viral because we did a buy one, donate one model. And it just was the craziest thing I've ever experienced by a long shot, alongside my team, who was just running right there with me as the world was shutting down, yet we were working harder than we had ever worked in our entire lives. And there were days where we were shipping 70, 80,000 masks. I mean, it insane. And we have now made over 1 million masks and have donated over 350,000 masks through our buy one, donate one model. So it really was quite the like, holy cow, I can't believe that just happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you said, that about purpose, because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs right now are trying to make sure that they feel a sense of purpose while pivoting, which can sometimes be hard, especially if it's, unexpected and nothing like what you plan to do. So I love that. Katie, tell us a little bit about what you've had to do.
Yeah, I think 2020 was meant to be, it was going to be my year. Mm-hmm. It was like, I have a big birthday coming up. I was going to be traveling. Like we were finally going to start, because we're self-funded. Megababe is self-funded. Mm-hmm. And we were going to start spending a little bit of like real marketing dollars. And we had IRL events planned for the summer and the spring, because Thigh Rescue is our hero product. So we really, when the weather heats up, that's when we really come alive. And in January, we had decided to launch a hand sanitizer because my sister had a baby and she was like insane about keeping her hands clean, and her hands were all cracked from using Purell. Mm-hmm. So we were like, cool, let's make an effective hand sanitizer that smells good, plant-based alcohol, and doesn't dry out your hands. Mm-hmm. And we launched it in January, and people were like, cool, a hand sanitizer. Great. Like, I like your deodorant. Like, no one really cared. And then COVID hit, mm-hmm. and we were like in stock in hand sanitizer, and we sell in major retailers like Target and Ulta. And we were able to fulfill major orders to both of those retailers. And essentially when we saw this was the wave of orders was coming, we had to fight for components. We had to fight for bottles. We had to like take on the big guys and like basically badger our factories into making sure that we were in stock. And we were only out of stock for 2 weeks, which is incredible because literally the country like ran out of alcohol. Oh, yeah. But that is the big pivot, is that we had, everything was allocated towards this one direction of building out the brand, promoting things like our butt mask and really introducing people into a more 360 way basically showing people more of the things that Megababe can do. And then we were like, well, everything's out the window. We have to lean into hand sanitizer. And then in the beginning of COVID, I live in New York City. Everything was so scary. And I actually left before everything shut down because I saw what was coming from California over here. And I was like very freaked out because, I packed like a weekend bag. I didn't know we were going to be gone for 7 months, which we were. And I had no control over anything. And the only thing that we had was hand sanitizer. So then we started a Megababe Cares program, essentially where people were just writing in on a one-on-one basis, being like, my grandma lives here. She can't get out. She needs hand sanitizer. Like I'm a frontline worker. I need hand sanitizer. Cause there was no hand sanitizer similar to the masks. There was nothing there. Right. Mm-hmm. So we were able to get that product into the hands of people who needed it. And that feeling, even though even now it sounds small, it sounds like, okay, like big deal. When you're being told that everything in your life is canceled and like you can't leave your home, and you have to wash your chips when they come home from the grocery store, like it's that one small piece of feeling like you can do something. So it's like pivoting and also a way to contribute back during an insane time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, both of you have been able to figure out a way to do that. And it's incredibly inspiring. And the changes that a lot of times your consumers and clients, they don't understand, what's happening behind the scenes. And for you guys, how was it trying to communicate, like what was changing, and how did you approach the communication with your, new people as well as your loyal customers on how you guys were pivoting?
I mean, on our end, it was grassroots all the way. It was me coming on the front lines essentially. And when we launched our masks, this was long before the CDC said, you guys need to be wearing masks everywhere you go. So people just kind of didn't know who to turn to or who to ask questions to. So it was like Hedley and Bennett's customer service line became the CDC in a weird way. We had at one point 16 customer service representatives when we normally had 2. Like, it was crazy. And we had thousands of tickets of people being like, what do I do? How do I wash this? What do I wear? How do I go to the grocery store? Like, people would just call us to talk through life.
Yeah.
And that was a huge thing that my team was contributing towards. And obviously us as a company putting resources behind our customer service team so that we had enough people responding back to people, because people were freaking out. Like, they were so to the days of Amazon where everything was instant, that the fact that a supply chain would be broken in any way, shape, or form was mind-boggling to people. So if you ordered something and it didn't arrive within the time that you said it was going to arrive, they were losing it. And so we were trying to talk to everyone and just be like, hey, it's on its way. This is what's happening. This is what's not working. Here's what it means to have a supply chain that's broken. What is a supply chain? Like, we were educating people, just being human, because what are you supposed to say? Like, sorry, we cannot talk to you right now. Call us later.
Right.
So I was also going on Instagram every night, Monday through Friday, and doing Instagram lives, talking about the shipping status for that day for the company. Wow. So we would be telling people, today we're shipping out within 2 days or 3 days. This is what's happening. Or there was a serious situation at the ports and things are behind and we're not going to be able to get things out for you. And we were just brutally honest. And a lot of people really appreciated that. And the fact that I'm the CEO and coming to the front lines, and, Instagram was not the friendliest place back then. And so we had people getting all upset on Instagram and being like, well, where's this? And I emailed you. And I'd be like, have you contacted this number? We'll take care of you offline. Shoot me a direct message and I will personally connect you with the right people that'll take care of you. And then they would just kind of say, okay, all right. Okay, fine. I'll contact them. And then they kind of calm down. But it took a lot of human face-to-face combat just to get through it and help people just know there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And I do think, to Katie, to your point, you helping one person or one grandma, it's that multiplied with the person on the other receiving end being like, I am waiting for this for my grandma. Where is it? Right? Yeah. They wanted to know, they wanted to feel like they had some control over something. Yeah. And so I just had my team too, having to really focus on that part. Think about all the people that we are helping right now. And while it feels like the world is imploding on us, and maybe it kind of is, just know that every day we're showing up, we're helping thousands of people be protected from COVID. Just keep doing it. You've got this. Let's go. We'll keep getting through it, and rallying them to kind of push forward through sheer adrenaline.
Yeah. And that connection, and you took the approach of just being honest and just being out with it. Look, we're going through the same thing you guys are going through, rather than releasing a statement and vanishing. You guys just kind of,
I think a lot of big companies did. And that's where companies that have real brands and that have a genuine story kind of came to the forefront, because they're like, hi, I'm real. I'm Katie. I'm Ellen. We're real people running a company, and we're running into the same struggles you are, but we're here to do everything we can to help you.
I love that. Katie, the way that you communicate with your customers and clients and vendors, how did that change for you?
It's a pretty similar tale, that it was all about, being small can be a problem sometimes, but also being small means that you're nimble and you don't have as much red tape. So having a CEO or a founder jump on an Instagram live or go on to tell people about a program, or even address the fact that shipping windows just went from 7 days to 3 weeks. And right. Cause the people they're anxious and they want their face mask or they want their hand sanitizer, and they want it yesterday. So they don't love being told no, but I think that is just something that we had to deal with, and something that the fact that we were helping really helped calm down the situation. I think personally, because we were stressed about all the customer service calls, but I think that, I don't know, we were just so thrilled that we were able to be in stock with hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Huge.
The fact that you guys were able to even come with that type of product during this time, hand sanitizer, mask, like,
it's crazy. We're just missing toilet paper in this trifecta.
Yeah, absolutely. Dang, I should start.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like how you guys have had so much craziness happens behind the scenes, when it comes to your team and working with your employees, how has that changed and shifted? Because there's so much change and like you said, having to be nimble, but how has working with your teams changed during this time?
Well, I'm curious, Katie, how big is your team? Like how many people?
We're really small. We have essentially it's myself and my co-founder, and we have like 3 other people that we work with.
Yeah.
So it's small, and honestly, we've been virtual because my co-founders are in Chicago and San Francisco. So we've been virtual this whole time. So there wasn't much of a change. It's crazy because like there wasn't much of a change for that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, no, ours was pretty different in that we had we had cut down our workforce as we saw this coming through. We were just like, oh my gosh, we need to cut anything that's not an absolute necessity. And so there were parts of the company that we trimmed. We cut salaries. I cut my pay altogether, like radical shift to just weather the storm. And then all of a sudden we had more work than we had ever had in terms of like traffic, et cetera. And then at the same time, because there were so many people coming for face masks, they were being exposed to our brand for the first time. And so they were now at home making sourdough bread, making banana bread, and being like, well, I should probably step up my game in the kitchen. Like they make amazing gear and their product is really well made and it's really nice fabric. Okay, I should buy an apron too. And so people started to then buy our other products simultaneously with the face mask. So we basically scaled down and then scaled up really quickly. And we're working in the factory the entire time. So we never actually felt like we shut down because we didn't. The day we were going to shut down, I decided to do the face mask. So we've been in our factory operating the entire time, and we had the marketing department working remotely, but everybody else was in the office. So that's about like 35 people coming in every day. And
wow.
Yeah.
It's a huge team.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I need like twice as many people. Yeah. Yeah. So we were doing that, but also we're totally different. And you have a product that's like, this is your product. We're constantly manufacturing new stuff and editing. And then we also have part of our business is custom for restaurants. So that requires a pretty severe amount of hand holding when it comes to making stuff. So doing manufacturing, doing the brand, doing the logistics and the shipping within the building. And then we just recently set up that 3PL I was mentioning to you guys earlier. So
yeah,
irons in the fire over in Hedley and Bennett land.
Yes, absolutely. With all the changes and like having to, move forward in a way that you didn't expect, I would say, what would you guys feel like was the biggest learning experience from having to make these kinds of changes so abruptly?
I think, I'll start. I think that you just have to be flexible, and that's a life lesson. It's a business lesson. It's something that you watch so often that people have their plans on paper and they're like, no, that's when this is happening. And you just kind of have to be a little bit fluid because you know, the plans don't always work out. And if you keep going forward or you just can't pivot, I was like, what's the word when you turn? Pivot. Yeah. If you just can't pivot, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
It's totally true. I think that when everything is crashing and burning around you, you're like, you look for one thing, you're like, wait, I just need to hold on. And I just very mentally let go of it all when the crisis happened, and convinced my team out of like sheer willpower that they needed to do it too. Yep. So that allowed people to kind of very uncomfortably jump on the Ellen bandwagon, which is, you know, when you bootstrap a company for so many years, you are the windshield. So you've been feeling this for years. You already know what it's like to have to adjust when something didn't work. It's like, well, that didn't work. I'm going to try something different, but it's usually just you. Now you've got a whole troop behind you and a supply chain and all these things, and convincing everybody to move in the same direction is really challenging, but also totally possible when you just shake people out of the, like, just put the bottle down. We're going to be okay. Keep running. And then people kind of get with it. But we also had people that just couldn't deal with it.
Couldn't do with it. Yeah.
This is
so true. So. I can totally relate to that. I'm always working and coaching, you know, entrepreneurs. And I feel like the thing that hinders people from adapting to change is the inability to accept change and to take all the things that they're used to and the comfort that they have of their routines or whatever it may be, and change that is the biggest hindrance. And so it's really true that, because as an entrepreneur, you're already on the front lines all the time. So you're used to that feeling of having to be like, not exactly sure how this is going to go, but yeah, it's just part of it. It's part of the game. What do you guys feel like is the hardest moment throughout this process? I mean, obviously there's ups and downs, but what was the most challenging, you would say?
I mean, I felt quite, and Katie, I don't know how big of a network you have around you, but I felt there were many times where I was so like the only thing that was the rock within the organization, and I couldn't talk to anyone else about what I was going through as like as a human on my end, and leading everyone through this craziness. And so it felt quite lonely at times. Lonely and terrifying, but also you're in adrenaline mode, so you're just going the whole time. There's no pause. And I don't know, like I needed more people to talk to. I needed more people around me. And there were so many people on social media and on Instagram being like, you guys are amazing. This is so incredible. You're so inspiring. And I'm like, oh, behind the scenes, just like trying to like keep it together.
Yeah.
So many people are looking to us as like the saving grace.
Yeah. I would say the loneliness, I mean, being an entrepreneur can be really lonely no matter what you're doing. But I felt that it was really hard to just like keep showing up to work, and pretending like not pretending, but like you sit down, you like put an agenda together, you like go on your calls and you're like, I'm sorry, are we just pretending that this is just normal? Like that happened to me. I would say like once an hour, I would just like look at whoever I was talking to or whatever I was doing and just be like, sorry, what is happening right now? And why are we pretending that we can just have a normal work day?
Totally. Yeah. Like, oh, by the way, there's a pandemic and a crisis and the biggest financial reset of our lives. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, how about that agenda? Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. What would you say you learned from it? Like Katie, you can start. What do you feel like if you could go back, what would you do differently in this process? If someone gave you a heads up in February or January, like here's what's coming.
I think it's to trust that like it's going to be okay. And if it's not going to be okay, trust that like something different or better is coming. Yeah. I also just think that, I don't know about you, but I feel like I was ramping up my 2019, like my 2019 was at like a breakneck upward trend. And then 2020 was just going to be like exploding. And I think that I had to recalibrate what it meant to be happy and successful and fulfilled, because I was living at such an intense pace, you know, like you're just like on a plane this week and kind of like thriving off of always being so busy. And I had to adjust to like the downshift in speed and really realize like it made me sit down and realize like what I want out of life, which is a crazy thing to come out of such a crazy time.
I would say the process of having to go through it makes you realize the things that are most important, which I think a lot of people can relate to. But would you do anything differently, you would say, besides if you could go back?
I don't think so. I kind of nailed early pandemic, not to like pat myself on the back, but like I really got out early. I got to like a safe place. I feel like other than my packing, which was no good, I feel like we obviously didn't know the pandemic was coming. We had a hand sanitizer on the way. Like, I don't think that there's anything I would do differently.
Yeah. If you could go back.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I kind of went overboard. I had like if I could go back, I would not be I turned into kind of a prepper. I was like making my family and my team, like I had everybody like, where's your snooch? So it was a bit much. So I would say I would maybe temper the panic that was going on, because as leaders, we can kind of control the temperature. But none of us knew, we were just going off of what we could do. But Ellen, what would you say if you could go back? Would you change anything or how you handle everything?
I think I feel grateful for the experience. Like, I've had many conversations with people throughout this time, and it's been the hardest time ever. I think for everyone across the board. So there is a sense of like unity in that, and that we all experience this, but also I am trying not to look at anything as like, I regret doing this or I regret doing that. It's more like every single one of the blows and like explosions that happened are all just like war wounds. They're just like, they're notches on the confidence belt of life. And I definitely think that if you survived 2020 and you're still standing, the experience that you just went through and the level of resilience that you just earned yourself is like second to none. You could go to the best colleges, you could go through the craziest things, and nothing compares to what we just went through and had to figure out on the fly and fix and change and adapt and edit. So from that standpoint, I feel almost like gratitude that I survived that and that my team survived it, because when you look back many, many years later, you're going to think, man, do you remember when that happened and how we adapted and how we pivoted? And I think it's something to be proud of.
Yes.
Because we're still standing. We're here. We're like, we still have 2 arms and legs and eyeballs at work, and we still have businesses that are alive. And there's, I have an industry that I watched get decimated overnight, and some of the restaurants in the United States lost everything, and our company is still standing. And so I feel very grateful for that. And I am trying to focus on what I have and what my company has and not what we don't have. Right.
100%. I totally agree with that. Taking a look at what we still have. I was saying that in the beginning of all this, like, if you can't control everything and you don't know what's going to happen, just focus on what you still have and what you can control. And that's been really helpful. But speaking of helpful, like the tools that you've had to come up with and utilize during this time, what are they, and which ones do you feel like are going to be with you for the long haul that you've had to pick up during this time? Community is one for me. I value it a lot more now.
Yeah.
I would say community is huge. Making sure that I'm being honest and upfront with the people that I have around me about how I'm feeling. And I think for better or for worse, I'm going to take this new pace into the future, because I cannot tell you that if I wasn't booked from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I felt like it was a failure day. And now I just have a very different set of expectations, and still obviously goal oriented and when wanting to be successful, but just a different way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
Katie, did you feel like you rearranged your schedule altogether, or did you have like a big team huddle and you said, this is how I'm going to do it? Or like, how did you get everyone around you to rally on that?
I would say that a lot of the drive to be like, to have a full day, and if you're not busy, then what are you doing? Right. I think that was coming from me. So I feel like what I'm trying to say is they knew that they could book me on 4 podcasts in a day, or that if I had to go to San Francisco for 24 hours, I would go. Like, they knew my threshold was my pain threshold for busyness was very high. So I feel like it's a result of not having places to go in person, and not traveling and things like that. But also, like, I don't know, like the vibe that I'm giving off, like I tell my Megababe team all the time, I'm like, great, it's like 6:00, no problem. I feel like I used to be like, it's 10:30 p.m. Why aren't you answering? And while there's still things that have to happen like that sometimes, I'm trying to make it less of the norm, and I'm trying to make unplugging more of something that is acceptable, which is very different for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm halfway through your process right now.
Okay. I'm coming to you from the future, and I'm telling you that it's a great time over here. Like I don't want to like give myself away, but like at 6:00, I'm like punching out and like going for a walk.
That's amazing. My mother of all people was like, you need to go on a walk. You need to go on a walk and just like go see the world, because you can't just work all the time. So that's, you're talking to me from the future, and I'm talking to me from like right now. I'm like working up to getting and going on walks.
At that point. Yeah.
I started doing these crazy early workouts that help me get a lot of this like energy out. It's 1 hour, it's at the park. And I go and I just like let it all out. And it's ruthless. Like, they are so intense, but in a good way. And I walk away and I can just deal with so much more that happens in the daytime. So that's been a part of my adjustment. Also, I too used to bother my team at all hours of the day. And I realized what an impact that was having on them. And so I don't bother them on the weekends anymore, or in the evenings. If I have something to say to them, I will email them and expect like an answer, versus a text just feels so much more urgent. I think I'm also realizing the weight of my words on my team. So when I say something versus when someone else says something, it's like, well, you're the founder, you're also the CEO, you're also intense as hell. So you find all of that together, that's a lot. It's like a fire hose coming at you.
Yes.
So I've learned I got a coach in the middle of all this for my entire leadership team. And we work with her, and she's just like, all right, think about how this person is going to feel when you say that. And I'm like, okay, good point. All right, let me try it again. And then I pause. I'm like pausing versus just doing all the time. So that's my journey over here.
I love that. I find it so interesting that most of us have, when we talk about what we've adjusted, it has to do with our interpersonal relationships and relationships between people. When we talk about going further together, it's not, oh, well, I found a new software or we're doing this different. It's always, well, this is how I'm, interacting with my team, and this is how I'm interacting with family, or even with ourselves as far as our self-care and the way that we take care of ourselves as entrepreneurs. I feel like that's something that has been happening for everyone. Like, I always had no interest in plants. painting. I'm like, look, I got stuff to do. That's for people who have time on their hands. And now there's a jungle here. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of like what I've seen the most is people who are so driven and, you know, have their own brands have also decided to, or by force really, figure out what makes them fulfilled outside of work. And I think out of everything, that has been just incredible. You know what I mean?
That's a really good point. I think that is part of the like reset is just recognizing, all right, we almost kind of just lost everything. What are we actually here? Why? What's our purpose? How do we reconnect with ourselves? How do we take care of ourselves, our family, our community, all this stuff? So yeah, that's a really good point, Ivirlei.
Yeah. I wanted to know from you guys, what has been the most inspirational, or who do you look to for inspiration throughout all of this?
I've got a group of female founders that I can like shoot texts to and ask questions to and just like vent to. And it's about 4 or 5 women. They're all separate. Like I don't have a group. I don't have anything like that. And it's really nice to be able to talk to someone about your work and they know exactly what you're talking about as the founder and everything, everything. They know everything from like legal stuff to how you have to like give an employee a bad report. Like there's a lot of rough stuff to navigate as an entrepreneur, and it's so helpful to have that circle.
Totally.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree. What about you?
I also have 4 people from very different worlds. One of them is Jenny's Ice Cream, like ice cream land. And then another one is Farm Girl Flowers. And that's like heavy distribution and flowers.
Farm Girl Flowers.
Oh, it is.
Awesome.
Great. Your posse is Jenny's Ice Cream?
Right?
I need to step up my posse. I ordered Jenny's like nonstop during the pandemic. It was like,
we need to posse up, girl.
You come join our posse.
Come on.
You.
Yeah.
No,
I had never heard of Farm Girl until I got these flowers from a friend, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Oh, no. And those girls are salt of the earth. They are so kind and so genuine and so helpful. So I've got a couple of them, and then I've got Richer Poorer in LA, which is another brand. And honestly, it's almost like you're sort of advisors in the sky. Like you can just kind of beam out to them and say, oh, this is a disaster. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? What are you doing? Or like, the world just ended over here. Have you ever gone through that? Tell me about it. And they're like, you know what? Absolutely. And then just hearing that somebody else went through it, you feel a little more sense of peace. So I think tapping into those people, we even have a sort of standing Sunday morning Zoom call that we do. It's not like always consistent, but if something's going down, like Black Friday is about to happen, right? Kitty, you should be on this call with us. We're like, hey guys, let's get together and let's talk about like, what's everybody doing? What are you guys, what's happening out there? And it's just really good to do that. And no matter how big or small your business is, for anyone out there listening, there are people in your world that you don't even realize are also going through the same things you are. So reaching out to them and having that humility to say, I don't have all the answers, and I'm going to show up and ask questions and don't be ashamed of it. And the shame feeling, like asking for help is shameless. Like you should do it and do it with pride, because people can just die by themselves or ask for help and move forward together. And so you just got to do that.
Yes, 100%. I love that. I was just about to ask you.
Amen.
I was just about to ask you, like, what advice you have for other entrepreneurs who are feeling, you know, like they have to pivot, but they're unsure, and all of the change, it's difficult for them. So, like you just said, the community aspect. And do you have anything else that you would say to an entrepreneur who is struggling with this type of thing?
Well, one of my friends, he has a streetwear brand called The Hundreds, totally different from Hedley Bennett. Like,
what do you know? You know every single brand that I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, okay, they're cool too. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, great.
Well, I'm building my community, and
Good job.
They're all in the trenches. They're all going through crazy.
Everybody, yep.
So no matter how sexy they look on Instagram, behind their scenes, they're going through the same crazy stuff we are.
Mm-hmm.
I just, like Bobby said, you know what, right now, brand, nobody is judging how many sales you're having, how many what colors are off on your newsletters. Nobody cares. Right now, everyone's just in survival mode. So don't worry about all the nitpicking, marketing, branding things we normally would be running around being crazy people about. He's just like, do what you need to do to survive and just push forward. And that to me was such good advice. Because, I mean, as self-funded businesses, it's like, brand is everything. You built this thing out of nothing. Like nothing can touch it.
Yep.
If that brand doesn't exist at the end of this, you have nothing. So you got to push that ship all the way to the island and like make it at no matter what happens. And so when COVID first hit, I was going on Instagram Live and like doing like QVC segments practically, like wearing aprons and being like, this apron is fantastic for cooking. You need this for grilling. You out there, buy this apron. If you don't wear aprons, I don't care. Buy it. 20% off. Call now. Like it was just absurd because that's what I felt like I needed to do to keep it moving. So just don't be afraid to try and to edit and to fail and to try again. And then one of those will hit.
Katie, do you have anything you would tell entrepreneurs that, you know, if they needed some tips like that? She covered it, but
no, she nailed it. We all know she nailed the question. I have nothing left to really add.
Well, we have some questions from Instagram, some users who answered the questions that we put on stories. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of them. And the first one is from Mackenzie Orth. And she said, is pivoting a COVID buzzword? I'm okay in my niche and market. So should I pivot? What would you guys say?
Does anyone watch Silicon Valley out there? Oh my God, in HBO. It's great. If you're an entrepreneur, give it a look sometime. But the point is they always joke about pivoting and you've got to pivot. And I think that pivot is a buzzy word. But no, if you don't have to pivot, that's super cool. That means like what you're doing is right. You don't have to pivot at all. Just stay the course if you're finding success.
Yeah, 100%. I think that concept is true for everything. It's just because you're seeing other people do it doesn't mean that you don't have to. If it's working, then use it.
If it's working for you, you're lucky. Don't mess with a working machine. Like let it keep going for sure.
I agree. Our next question is from Anna K. Bradshaw. And she said, how do you prepare for future pivots and how do you build an adaptable business? That could be a longer question because building an adaptable business there's a lot that goes into it. But what would you guys say?
Yeah, it's like being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And if you can be comfortable with the uncomfortable once, you can kind of do it again and again and again. And I also say, remember that you are like the best thing that you have, right? Yeah. Besides your like family and community around you, like as long as you're still standing, you still have an opportunity to do something different. Like every day is a new day. And so even if the world feels like it ended yesterday, you just have to get back up and try one more time tomorrow and know that if you keep putting one step in front of the other, like you will make it somewhere. You will get somewhere more forward than not moving at all. And that's just like, you have to remember. And people go through the craziest things in their lives and then they still push forward. So you just can't forget that.
I agree 100%. Our next question is from Cheryl Guarnero and Granero, sorry. And what is the best way to handle a pivot or rebrand when multiple people are involved in decisions? It's a good question.
Oof. You have to have a big D, as we call it in our organization. Big D is like the decision maker. You have to have an assigned big D. Like everyone can contribute knowledge and contribute input and data to like back up the final decision, but there needs to be one person that makes the call or else you're going to be at a standstill for a long time. And just being, even if everyone is not in full alignment, sometimes if you let too much time go by, the world makes the decision for you. So you better like rally. And even if they disagree, it's like, agree that we're disagreeing and we march forward. And if it doesn't work, fine, we adjust. But like, we have to make a choice or the world's going to make a choice for us.
Decisiveness. I'm working on that myself, not only just in business, but just in life. Yeah, absolutely. Katie, what would you say?
I'm the big D at Megababe for sure. Like that is my role. It's like one of the best things I do there. Some would say the only thing I do well, I mean, there are
yeah.
Very funny with me. Anyway, I work with my sister, so I get made fun of a lot. She's my business partner.
Wow.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. But no, you said it, you guys said it exactly right. You got to make a decision, be decisive, or the decision will get made for you. And then it might be something you don't want.
Absolutely. We have a question from, her name is Alec Grant. And she said, and this is a fun one. She said, a large scale event manager to small scale events. What are your tips on how to make it super special?
Oh, I don't know. My thing I always do is just personal details, making it like very from large scale to small scale, I guess, finding out what that person really loves. And then, I mean, I'm thinking of like a birthday party. I don't know much about events, but I'm just saying that if you don't bring in those really personal details and do that research, then it's really easy to feel generic.
Yeah, 100%. I was just about to say that, is the personal details and not focusing so much on going from large to small, but focusing in on how can we make this more authentic and true to the person or the event that we're celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will also add that, I mean, this isn't the question, but it's like, we've been faced with how to do things virtually versus in person. And I think even Instagram lives, I won't do something if I find it to be very boring for myself. Cause if I'm bored, then the people watching must be really bored.
Yeah.
So I love incorporating games into things, giveaways. We do bingo on, any like live I have like a bingo board. We have like common things that everyone says on a live, like, can you hear me? Or what are you watching on Netflix? Like, and then we do a big giveaway during the live so that it feels more engaging to the audience. So
yeah, I love that.
I have a question. Can I throw a question into the question pile?
Do it.
Okay. Mrs. Ivirlei and Katie, question for you two in the back. All right. So, how have you guys felt? You both said community is super important to you, and me as well. How have you felt that engagement has increased, and like what have you done to really kind of tap into your community even more on a digital level, being that we have zero ability to connect with people in real life? And for me, I used to be very much like show up, work the room, make a bajillion friends, talk to 8 million people. And like, that was my world. And now it's all social. And so I'm curious how you guys foster community in a social level.
For me, it's been a really unique situation because I looked to my small online community before all this. And then I had a video go really, really viral, like in the millions, which attracted so many people, strangers. So I kind of felt like it was more of a stage where I'm like, who are these people? Rather than being able to get online and talk to my, my normal, crew of, my following was very small at the, before this video happened. So for me, it's been having to figure out ways to create small groups, utilizing my email list a little more for the people who've always been there and try to get to know who all these new people are, So it's been tough because I would normally just go to a friend's house and, or go to one of our little founders meetings of entrepreneurs. And now it's all on Zoom. So it's been challenging and been rough to kind of figure out how to still feel connected with your people and with new people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Katie, what about you?
I use the question sticker all the time on Instagram stories. I love the question sticker because it makes it more efficient for me to reply to more people at once. And you can really dive into a topic, which I love doing. I've always been really open on my social. And I think that that's part of the reason I love doing it so much is because I'm comfortable doing that. And I love interacting with people and like getting their opinion about things and hearing their stories. So I would say that the question sticker on Instagram stories is a great way to engage in like a specific way and get those answers.
Yeah. I love that.
I really do. I think that these tips have been really helpful. I've learned so much, especially from, hearing how you guys have been navigating, and community has come up a lot, which I think a lot of people will be able to relate to. So I'm super excited I got to talk to you guys. Great to meet you. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us so much. And I hope that everyone out there comes and joins our community too. I'm Ellen Bennett on Instagram and Hedley and Bennett. Go follow my pet pig, Oliver.
You have a pet pig?
Yes.
Way to bury the lead. Man.
He's 200 pounds. You can go see him on Ellen Marie Bennett. Right.
I love it. So great to meet you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.